This is the beginning of the Drug Policy Alliance plenary session. At the Westin Hotel in Los Angeles, California.
In New York City, and probably in most other cities in the United States, more people are arrested for possessing marijuana than any other crime whatsoever. In New York City, about 1 out of every 7 arrests for anything is a misdemeanor marijuana possession arrest. In New York City, about 50% of the population is Black or Latino, but about 87% of the people arrested are Black and Latino. According to U.S. federal studies, Blacks and Latinos consume marijuana young Blacks and Latinos consume marijuana at lower rates than whites. But in New York City and in every other major city in America, Blacks are arrested and Latinos are arrested at 2, 3, 5, 7, 10, 12 times the rate of whites. Everywhere in America. And I can give you a list of cities from Atlanta, all the way across the country. Atlanta is not particularly bad. What do you do about this? Well, one of the things that I sort of figured out, and I think it's important to understand, and I've sort of been saying this at normal conferences, and I think I've even gotten Ethan to believe it, to understand it, is that there are a lot of people who call for the end of drug prohibition, for legalizing drugs in various ways. There's a long, honorable history of people who do take on drug prohibition. And what I have been suggesting to people, and that the way to end drug arrests is by ending drug prohibition. And I think actually the opposite is true. That the way to end drug prohibition and the way to end marijuana prohibition is to end the drug arrests. And that is because, and this what happened in California in 2010 makes it very clear, is that the major standing political opposition to reducing penalties for marijuana, for decriminalizing it, for depenalizing it, and for flat out legalizing it, is law enforcement, is the police and prosecutors. They were the major enemy of the Proposition 19 in California, and that is true throughout the United States. Law enforcement has enormous political power in city councils, in counties, in state governments, and in the United States Congress. So the political opposition to reforming drug policy is not the churches. It is not some fundamentalist organizations. It is not anti-drug organizations in some kind of way, which are scattered in a kind of disarray in some ways. But it is the police, and as Ethan talked about just in the earlier session, it's the prosecutors. And that's who we have to fight. Now, the weapon we have is the data about the arrest, which is so appalling and so obvious, and so it can be gotten. We have data. We can help you get data from the place where you are. In Chicago recently, Chicago doesn't reveal its data to anybody, but a reporter for the Chicago Reader sued on the Freedom of Information and discovered that Chicago is probably arresting people at a higher rate than New York City is. In Chicago, about 50% of the population is white. 5% of the marijuana arrests in Chicago are white. 50% of the population of Chicago is white. 5% of the population of the people arrested for marijuana in Chicago are white. And the 23,000 arrests a year for less than 3 million people. In Los Angeles, blacks are getting arrested at 7 times the rate of whites. In Chicago, it's closer to 8 or 9. In New York, it's 7. These are misdemeanors. These are not felonies. Misdemeanors are generally often regarded as small crimes, as unimportant. There's no big deal. But they are a very big deal. They produce criminal records which do not go away and cannot be expunged, which are now available on the internet for $12 to $20. You do a Google search for criminal records and you will come up with a list of firms that will offer to find in a few moments information about anybody you want if you've got their address, social security number, birth date, or any one of those things. combination with some color with a name. Employers, big box stores, schools, credit agencies, banks, licensing boards for beauticians, nurses, school teachers, all check employee, applicant records against these databases. They are notified by state agencies and sometimes. This is an unbelievably brilliant system, and it needs to be taken on. And it can be taken on. Right now, the discrepancy between some notion of justice and morality and fairness and ethics and what is going on basically behind closed doors and sort of privately and secretly around the marijuana arrests in the United States and other drug arrests is so appalling that there are now journalists who will write about it. Now, one of the tricks of getting noise about this out is you got to be able to get into the press, although the web is a wonderful way to do this. Most big city newspapers cannot write about their police departments critically. They can write about scandals, but they can't write about what they routinely do. They just can't do it. New York can write about what Los Angeles is doing, right? Atlanta can write about what Chicago is doing. Boston can write about what Atlanta is doing, but nobody can write about their own police department, but the columnists can do it. The editorial pages can do it. And some of them right now, and particularly if there are blacks on the editorial boards or columnists, they will write about it, and they're speaking up. Alice Huffman today is part of an enormous sort of opening among the civil rights. It's going to grow, it's going to come. It's really a wonderful and remarkable thing that is about to happen. And I do think, and I absolutely believe, that, that we're going to win. And that what's happened in New York is we beat on them. And we beat on them. We got two major people in the New York Times, and a columnist and an op-ed page writer, to take on the marijuana arrests again, and they write fierce, remarkable columns. You can see them on our website. 3 weeks ago, Police Commissioner Ray Kelly, the Bulldog, ordered his police to hold back on making what were blatantly, clearly illegal arrests. Whether they're going to do it or not, or whether this is, to what extent this is a public relations ploy or to buy them some time or whatever, it's not quite clear. But it doesn't matter, because we're going to keep coming. And as they say we're going to not make these misdemeanor arrests, we're going to write tickets, we're going to have summonses, that too is deeply pernicious, with many of the same consequences for criminal records as the misdemeanor arrests go. So do not believe it when they say that, oh, we're just going to write tickets and they're just like parking tickets or car tickets or no, they're not. They're not, they're not, they're not. The whole damn system has to come down, has to become undone. We've got some news out on the web. We're here to send the message, and we're going to do it. Yeah.